It had always been like that. A drawing, a school project, a compliment from a visiting aunt. Serena had a knack for swooping in and claiming the spotlight, leaving me in the perpetual twilight of her manufactured brilliance. The resentment had simmered for years, a slow burning fire, fueled by every stolen idea, every dismissive word, every blind eye turned by our parents. The memory of the spring dance dress still stung, a sharp, precise pain. I'd spent weeks designing and sewing it, pouring every ounce of my teenage angst and yearning into the flowing fabric and delicate embroidery. It was mine, a piece of my soul made tangible. But Serena had seen it, declared it perfect for her, and our parents, predictably, had sided with her. I watched her twirl on the dance floor, bathed in the admiring gazes of my classmates, wearing my dress, receiving my praise. My heart had sunk that night, a lead weight in my chest. It was the first time I truly understood the depth of their betrayal. Now, years later, here I stood, watching the culmination of that betrayal unfold. The giant screen behind the stage flashed with images of Serena's designs. My designs, each one a stolen piece of my heart, my creativity, my life. The host, a slick-haired man with a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos, practiced his lines, his voice dripping with manufactured excitement. Tonight, we celebrate a true visionary, a rising star, Serena Caldwell. Serena herself arrived in a flurry of activity, a whirlwind of flashing cameras and fawning assistants. She was a vision of effortless elegance, a carefully constructed image of success. The dress she wore, a breathtaking cascade of emerald silk and intricate beading, was another one of my creations. A design I'd sketched late one night, fueled by frustration and a desperate need to create something beautiful in a world that felt increasingly ugly. She laughed, a light, airy sound that grated on my nerves. She posed for the cameras, her smile dazzling, her eyes sparkling with what? Triumph? Arrogance? Or was it perhaps a flicker of fear? My own eyes narrowed, focusing on her with a laser-like intensity. My hand, hidden in the folds of my dress, clenched into a fist, the nails digging into my palm. Then, slowly, deliberately, I relaxed. I took a deep breath, letting the tension drain away, replaced by a chilling, predatory calm. The broadcast was about to begin. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched my lips. They thought because I was the quiet one, I would just let this slide, that I was weak. I chuckled softly, the sound swallowed by the surrounding hubbub. How foolish. The flickering images on the screen behind the stage transitioned, now showcasing a series of childhood photos. A saccharine sweet voiceover, undoubtedly pre-approved by Serena and our parents, began to weave the tale of the Caldwell sisters, two peas in a pod, always sharing a love for fashion. Lies, all lies. My mind drifted back, a forced march through a minefield of painful memories. I saw myself, a small, serious child of 7, hunched over a battered notebook. My fingers, clumsy but determined, moved across the page, sketching the elaborate gowns I saw in my dreams. Intricate lacework, flowing silhouettes, bold colors. A world away from the stick figures Serena was proudly presenting to our mother. Serena, darling, you have such a wonderful imagination. Mom's voice, honeyed and full of praise, echoed in my memory. She was kneeling beside Serena, who was brandishing a crayon drawing of a lopsided house and a sun with far too many rays. Such pretty colors. You're going to be a little artist, just like you. My own drawing, a meticulously detailed sketch of a Victorian-era dress, lay forgotten on the floor beside me. I didn't bother to show it to her. I knew what would happen. A perfunctory glance, a polite, "That's nice, dear," and then back to fawning over Serena's genius. The scene shifted. I was 13, hunched over our ancient sewing machine in the cramped spare room that served as my studio. The whir of the machine was a comforting rhythm, a counterpoint to the pounding frustration in my chest. I was working on a dress for the school's annual design project, a flowing creation of sapphire blue silk that I'd painstakingly embellished with hand-sewn beads. The door burst open, and Serena stood there, her eyes widening as she took in the dress. "Oh, Sally, it's perfect!" she exclaimed, her voice dripping with a sugary sweetness that always set my teeth on edge. It's exactly what I need for Jessica's party next week. I stared at her, speechless. But it's for the design project. I finally managed to stammer. I've been working on it for weeks. Serena pouted, her lower lip trembling. But I need it, Sally, please. You can always make another one. You're so good at it. It's easy for you. Easy for me? Easy. The word hung in the air, a mocking echo of all the times I'd heard it before. They never saw the hours of work, the meticulous planning, the frustration and the triumphs that went into each creation. They only saw the finished product, and they only saw Serena wearing it. My parents predictably sided with Serena. Celeste, be a dear and let Serena borrow your design, Dad said, his voice weary, as if dealing with my stubbornness was an exhausting chore. It's just for one night, and it would mean so much to her. Mom chimed in, her voice softer but no less dismissive. You know how important social events are for Serena, sweetheart. You're so talented, you can always create something else. Be a good sister. A good sister. The phrase had become a weapon, a tool to guilt me into submission. And I, fool that I was, always gave in. I watched Serena twirl in my dress, basking in the compliments, the envy, the attention. A mixture of pride. It was a beautiful dress, after all, and bitter resentment churned within me. High school brought a brief, shining moment of hope. I entered the regional Young Designers competition, pouring all my suppressed creativity and ambition into a breathtaking gown inspired by Art Deco architecture. It was bold, innovative, and undeniably mine, and I won. For a few glorious days, I tasted the sweetness of recognition. My name was in the local paper, my design praised by the judges. I even allowed myself to dream of a future where I was the one in the spotlight. But Serena couldn't stand it. The night before the winning designs were to be displayed at a gala event, I found my dress ruined. A large, ugly stain of bright red juice marred the delicate fabric, rendering it unpresentable. Serena, of course, claimed it was an accident. She'd been admiring it, she said, and had tripped. Tears welled up in her eyes, and our parents rushed to comfort her, their poor, clumsy daughter. Don't worry, Sally, Mom said, patting my shoulder absently. You can always make another one. You're so talented, it's nothing for you. Nothing for me. Except, of course, the crushing weight of disappointment, the bitter taste of betrayal, and the growing realization that I would always be second best. That I would always be the shadow, while Serena basked in the sun. It was around that time that I had started my journal, my thoughts, the very designs that were stolen. Serena was not inherently evil. That was perhaps the most frustrating part. She wasn't a cartoon villain, twirling a mustache and plotting my downfall. She was simply selfish. Deeply, profoundly, almost innocently selfish. She craved attention, validation, and admiration like a drug. And she had learned early on that the easiest way to get those things was to take them from me. She genuinely believed she was talented. She had convinced herself that the ideas, the designs, the accolades were rightfully hers. She had absorbed my creativity so completely that she no longer recognized it as mine. She was a parasite, feeding off my talent, and our parents were her willing hosts. The application to Maison Deveraux was everything. It was more than just paper and ink. It was the culmination of years of dreaming, of sketching in secret, of honing my skills while Serena basked in the unearned glow of my stolen talent. I was 22, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of genuine hope. This was my chance to escape, to finally stand on my own 2 feet, to be recognized for my work, my vision. I poured every ounce of myself into that portfolio. Each design was a piece of my soul, a defiant cry against the years of silence and suppression. I imagined the crisp, clean lines of the Maison Deveraux offices, the hum of creativity, the respect I would finally earn. I imagined a life where I wasn't just Serena's sister, but Celeste Caldwell, designer. Serena, of course, supported me. She'd flutter around my cramped workspace, offering insincere compliments and asking endless questions about my process. Her eyes, though, held a different story. I saw the fear there, the naked terror of being eclipsed. She knew deep down that I was the truly talented one, and that terrified her. "You're so amazing, Sally," she'd gush. draping an arm around my shoulder in a show of sisterly affection. I could never do what you do. You're just born with it. Born with it? As if my skill was some random genetic lottery rather than the result of years of dedication and hard work. As if she hadn't benefited from that gift every step of the way. The day I mailed the application, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. It was as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I allowed myself to dream, to imagine a future bathed in the warm glow of my own success. The rejection letter arrived 3 weeks later. It was short, impersonal, and utterly devastating. Thank you for your interest in Maison Deveraux. While your application was interesting, we regret to inform you that we will not be moving forward with your candidacy at this time. Interesting, not talented, not innovative, not promising, just interesting. It was a polite dismissal, a death knell for my dreams. I was numb. I couldn't understand it. Had I overestimated my abilities? Had I been living in a delusion all these years? The doubt, a familiar and unwelcome guest, crept back into my mind. Then came the bomb. 2 weeks after my rejection, Serena bounced into my room, her face flushed with excitement, waving a cream-colored envelope with the distinctive Maison Deveraux logo. "Guess what, Selly?" she shrieked, her voice hitting a pitch only dogs could probably hear. "I got in. They accepted me into their mentorship program. Isn't it amazing?" She thrust the letter into my hands, a cruel parody of sisterly sharing. I stared at it, my vision blurring. It was an acceptance letter, addressed to Serena Caldwell. It praised her unique vision, her bold designs, her undeniable talent. And then I saw them. The sketches attached to the letter, the portfolio that had secured her this coveted spot. They were mine. My Art Deco gown, my flowing sapphire dress, my meticulously crafted designs stolen and presented as her own. There were a few crude, childish drawings mixed in, obviously Serena's pathetic attempts to fill in the gaps. But the core, the heart, the soul of the portfolio was mine. The confrontation that followed was explosive, a volcanic eruption of years of suppressed rage. I cornered Serena and our parents in the living room, the acceptance letter clutched in my trembling hand. "You stole my designs!" I screamed, my voice raw with pain and fury. "Oh, you stole my dream! You let her take everything!" Serena, for once, couldn't maintain her usual facade of innocent sweetness. Her face crumpled, her eyes darting nervously between me and our parents. I don't know what you're talking about, Selly," she stammered. "You're just jealous." Jealous? The word was a slap in the face. Jealous of her? Of her stolen success? Her hollow victories? Jealous? I laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "I created those designs, every single one of them. You know it, and they know it." I pointed an accusing finger at our parents, who stood frozen, their faces ashen. Mom finally found her voice, her usual sugary tone replaced by a forced calm. "Celeste, please calm down," she said, reaching out a hand as if to placate a wild animal. "This is a wonderful opportunity for Serena and for the whole family." "The whole family?" I echoed, incredulous. "What about me? What about my opportunity? What about my future?" Dad stepped forward, his face a mask of weary resignation. "We did what was best, Celeste," he said, his voice heavy with a finality that chilled me to the bone. "Serena has the presence to succeed in this industry. You're better off behind the scenes." Behind the scenes. Invisible. That's all I'd ever been to them. A tool, a resource, a ghostwriter for Serena's manufactured success. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. My own parents had betrayed me, had sacrificed my dreams for the sake of Serena's ambition. The aftermath was a blur of legal documents and hushed conversations. I was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement, a gag order that effectively silenced me. They offered me a pittance, a salary to work as Serena's assistant, to continue creating the designs she would claim as her own. I was trapped, a prisoner in my own life, forced to watch my sister parade around in the stolen glory of my talent. The years that followed were a slow, agonizing torture. I lived a double life, To the outside world, I was Celeste Caldwell, the quiet, unassuming sister of the fashion sensation, Serena Caldwell. I played the role of the supportive sibling, smiling for the cameras, attending the galas, and offering hollow congratulations. But behind the facade, I was a ghost, a shadow, the anonymous creator fueling Serena's meteoric rise. I designed her collections, sketched her inspirations, and even wrote her acceptance speeches. Every stolen compliment, every undeserved award was a fresh twist of the knife in my heart. My resentment festered, growing into a cold, hard knot of anger. But I channeled that anger, transforming it into a weapon. I meticulously documented everything. Every stolen design, every lie, every instance of Serena's blatant plagiarism was recorded in my journal, a growing catalog of evidence. I secretly recorded conversations, saved emails, and gathered every scrap of proof I could find. I was building a case, a fortress of truth that would one day shatter Serena's carefully constructed world. Serena, meanwhile, grew increasingly arrogant and entitled. She believed her own hype, reveling in the adoration and accolades. She treated me with a condescending disdain that bordered on cruelty, as if I were a mere servant, unworthy of even basic respect. Honestly, Selly, she'd sneer, tossing a crumpled sketch at my feet. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're so good at the technical stuff, the boring bits. The boring bits that were the foundation of her entire career. Then came the announcement. A live television special, a celebration of creativity, dedicated to Serena Caldwell's extraordinary talent. She would be interviewed about her career, her inspirations, and, most gallingly, she would unveil her latest collection. A collection that, of course, was entirely my work. That was it, the breaking point. I stared at the television screen, at Serena's smug, self-satisfied face, and something inside me snapped. The years of silence, of suppressed rage, of quiet desperation coalesced into a single unwavering resolve. They thought they could use me, discard me, erase me, I thought, a cold fury burning in my chest. They thought I was too weak to fight back. I ran my fingers across the scars on my wrist, a permanent reminder of a dark time, a time when the pain had almost overwhelmed me. But I had survived, and I had learned. They underestimated me, I continued, my internal monologue a steel-edged whisper. They underestimated the power of silence, of observation, of planning. A slow smile spread across my face, a smile that had nothing to do with happiness and everything to do with retribution. Tonight, I murmured to myself, my voice barely audible. The world will see the truth. Tonight, Serena's lies will crumble. And I would finally be free. My plan was already in motion. I contacted Liam, a former classmate from high school. He'd always been a bit of a tech wizard, a whiz with computers and code. He'd also had a crush on me back then, a detail I hadn't forgotten. Liam, I said, my voice calm and steady when he answered the phone. I need your help. I explained everything, the stolen designs, the years of deception, the upcoming television special. I laid it all out, bare and raw, holding nothing back. Liam was hesitant at first. Selly, this is huge. We're talking about taking down a major celebrity, a whole empire built on lies. It's dangerous. I know, I said, but I can't live like this anymore. I won't. Will you help me? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then a sigh. Tell me what you need. And so, the final pieces of my plan fell into place. Liam, my unlikely ally, would provide the technical expertise, the digital weaponry I needed to expose Serena's lies to the world. He began the long, tedious work of clues and helping me prepare. The tension in the days leading up to the broadcast was almost unbearable. But I held on to my resolve, my focus unwavering. I was ready. The week leading up to Serena's televised celebration of creativity was a whirlwind of meticulously orchestrated chaos. I moved with a precision and focus I hadn't known I possessed, fueled by a potent cocktail of adrenaline, righteous anger, and the intoxicating taste of impending freedom. This was the first domino, the subtle nudge that would start the avalanche. I spent hours hunched over my drawing table, not creating beauty, but crafting deliberate mediocrity. It was a strange, almost painful process, forcing myself to dumb down my skills, to mimic the amateurish style that Serena had haphazardly adopted to mask her lack of talent. I created a series of sketches, dresses, coats, accessories that were technically sound but utterly lacking in inspiration. They were bland, derivative, the kind of designs you'd see in a fast fashion catalog, not on a runway. I made sure they were just slightly off, with awkward proportions, clashing colors, and uninspired details. Enough to raise eyebrows, but not enough to be immediately dismissed as a hoax. They need to be believable, but off, I explained to Liam over a video call, holding up one of the sketches for his inspection. Just enough to make people wonder, to plant the seed of doubt. Liam, his face illuminated by the glow of his multiple monitors, looked concerned. You're playing a dangerous game, Sally. Are you sure about this? If they trace this back to you, they won't, I said, my voice firm. I have been playing their game for years, living in the shadows, letting them steal my work and my life. It's time to play mine. I leaked the sketches anonymously to several influential fashion blogs and gossip websites, using a burner email address and a VPN to mask my location. The accompanying message was short and sweet. Leaked preview of Serena Caldwell's new collection? What do you think? The reaction was immediate, and exactly what I'd hoped for. Some of Serena's loyal fans defended the designs, claiming they were edgy and avant-garde, but others, including some respected fashion critics, expressed confusion and disappointment. Is this really the best she can do? One blogger wrote. It feels uninspired. The seeds of doubt were sown. This was the more delicate operation. I couldn't risk exposing myself, but I needed to get the truth into the hands of people who could make a difference. I compiled a list of journalists, critics, and stylists who had previously praised Serena's work, the ones who had unknowingly lauded my designs. Then I began my campaign of whispers. Using a burner phone and a series of encrypted email accounts, I contacted each of them individually. I didn't reveal my identity, instead presenting myself as a concerned industry insider. I attached carefully selected pieces of evidence, scanned pages from my old sketchbooks showing early versions of designs that Serena had later claimed as her own, dated photographs of me working on those designs, even a few snippets of audio recordings I'd secretly made of conversations with Serena and our parents. Whispers in the dark, I thought, a sinister thrill coursing through me as I sent each email. That's all it takes to start a fire. I didn't accuse Serena outright. I simply presented the evidence and let them draw their own conclusions. I believe there may be some inconsistencies in Ms. Caldwell's portfolio, I wrote in one email. I urge you to investigate further. The responses were varied. Some ignored me, some dismissed me as a crank. But a few, the ones with real integrity, expressed genuine concern and promised to look into it. That was all I needed. This was Liam's domain and the most nerve-wracking part of the plan. He had to breach the television network's security, gain access to their live broadcast feed, and prepare to upload my evidence at the precise moment I gave the signal. He worked tirelessly, fueled by copious amounts of coffee and the sheer audacity of the task. We communicated constantly using encrypted messaging apps and coded language. There were several close calls, moments where he almost got caught, where the entire plan teetered on the brink of disaster. One night, his voice came through my earpiece, tight with stress. I'm in, he said, but the security is insane. They've got firewalls, intrusion detection systems. It's like Fort Knox in here. You can do it, I said, my voice calm despite the knot of anxiety in my stomach. I had to believe in him. I had to believe in us. I know you can. He managed to create a backdoor, a hidden pathway into the system that would allow him to upload my files and override the live feed. It was a precarious, fragile connection, but it was enough. While Liam wrestled with the digital world, I focused on the physical. I needed a statement, a visual representation of everything Serena had stolen from me. I needed a dress. I locked myself in my makeshift studio, surrounded by fabrics, sketches, and the tools of my trade. I worked day and night, driven by a fierce, almost manic energy. I wasn't just creating a dress, I was creating a weapon, a symbol of defiance, a declaration of independence. The dress was the antithesis of everything Serena represented. It was bold where she was safe, original where she was derivative, unapologetically me where she was a carefully constructed facade. It was a vibrant, flowing gown of deep crimson silk, with intricate, almost architectural details that showcased my true skill. It was a dress that demanded attention, a dress that screamed, "I am here, and I will not be ignored." When it was finished, I stood back and stared at it, my breath catching in my throat. It was perfect. The night before the broadcast, I meticulously reviewed my evidence. I organized it into a chronological narrative, a devastating indictment of Serena's lies and our parents' complicity. I practiced my speech, the words I would say when I finally confronted Serena on live television. I anticipated every possible scenario, every potential obstacle. What if Liam's hack failed? What if security caught me? What if Serena somehow managed to talk her way out of it? I had contingency plans for everything, backup strategies, escape routes. I was a general preparing for battle, and my battlefield was the television studio. My weapons were truth, evidence, and the burning desire for justice, and I was ready to fight. The day of the broadcast arrived, a suffocating blanket of tension settling over me. It wasn't just nervousness. It was a visceral, almost physical sensation, a tightening in my chest, a humming in my veins. Every detail, every step had been planned and rehearsed, but the unpredictable nature of live television loomed like a dark cloud. I arrived at the studio hours before the show, blending into the throng of workers, technicians, and media personnel. My disguise was simple: a black uniform borrowed from a friend who worked catering, a nondescript baseball cap pulled low over my eyes, and a neutral expression that masked the turmoil within. I was a ghost, a shadow, moving unseen through the glittering spectacle that was Serena's world. From a distance, I watched her arrival. A limousine, sleek and black as a predator, pulled up to the red carpet, and Serena emerged, a vision of manufactured perfection. She was wearing another one of my designs, a breathtaking gown of shimmering silver fabric that draped and flowed like liquid moonlight. She claimed, of course, to have created it herself, inspired by some fabricated trip to a remote island. The press swarmed her, their cameras flashing like a swarm of hungry insects. Serena basked in the attention, her smile radiant, her practiced charm on full display. She answered their questions with effortless grace, weaving a tapestry of lies about her inspiration, her creative process, and her passion for fashion. "This collection is deeply personal to me," she declared, her voice breathy with emotion. "It's about embracing vulnerability, finding beauty in imperfection." Vulnerability? Imperfection? The hypocrisy was almost unbearable. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Serena," I murmured under my breath, my voice a low, venomous whisper. "This is your last moment in the spotlight." I slipped away from the red carpet chaos and made my way backstage, my heart pounding a steady rhythm against my ribs. Liam was already set up in a small, unused storage room near the main control booth. He was surrounded by a tangle of wires, laptops, and monitors, his face illuminated by the flickering screens. "Everything's ready," he said, his voice tight with nerves. He looked up at me, his eyes questioning. "Are you sure about this, Selly?" I met his gaze, my own unwavering, more sure than I've ever been about anything. I checked my hidden earpiece, ensuring it was securely in place. This was our lifeline, our only means of communication once the broadcast began. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm, to focus on the task at hand. I moved through the backstage area with a quiet confidence, observing the frantic activity around me. Makeup artists fussed over models, stylists adjusted dresses, and stagehands rushed back and forth carrying equipment and props. It was a carefully choreographed dance of controlled chaos. And then I saw her. Serena was sitting in her dressing room, surrounded by her entourage. Her stylist, her makeup artist, her publicist, even our parents. They were all fawning over her, offering words of encouragement, adjusting her hair, and generally reinforcing the illusion of her perfection. Mom and Dad were beaming with pride, their eyes shining with a love that had always been reserved for Serena. They didn't even glance in my direction. I was invisible to them, just another faceless member of the crew. The familiar pang of hurt and resentment tightened my chest, but I pushed it down, refusing to let it distract me. The minutes ticked by, each one an eternity. Finally, the announcement came over the loudspeakers. 5 minutes to live broadcast. I took my position in the wings, hidden from view but with a clear line of sight to the stage. I could see Serena being escorted to her seat, the audience erupting in applause as she appeared. The host, that same slick-haired man I'd seen earlier, greeted her with effusive praise, launching into a pre-rehearsed introduction that painted her as a visionary, a genius, a true artist. The interview began with the usual softball questions. Serena's early life, her lifelong passion for fashion, her meteoric rise to the top of the industry. She answered smoothly, reciting the fabricated narrative she'd been telling for years. She was a master of deception, completely at ease in her role, her lies flowing as effortlessly as the silk of her stolen gown. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence in my mind. The moment was approaching. I could feel it, a tingling anticipation that ran through my veins. The host finally steered the conversation towards the present, towards the new collection that Serena was supposedly unveiling tonight. He mentioned the leaked sketches, the mixed reactions online, subtly hinting at the growing doubts about her originality. "Serena," he said, his voice taking on a slightly sharper edge, "there's been some discussion online about your latest designs. Some have suggested that they're not quite as innovative as your previous work. What's your response to that?" For the first time that night, Serena faltered. Her perfectly crafted smile slipped, a flicker of panic crossing her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again, searching for the right words, the right lie. "Well," she began, her voice slightly strained, "I think it's important to remember that creativity is a journey. Sometimes you experiment, you try new things. Not everything is going to be a masterpiece." The host pressed her further. "But these designs, they seem quite different from your established style. Is there a reason for that?" Serena stammered, her carefully constructed facade beginning to crumble. This was it. I took a deep breath and spoke into my earpiece, my voice calm and clear. "Now, Liam, now." The sleek, professionally produced backdrop behind Serena, a montage of her supposed triumphs, suddenly dissolved into static. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. The expertly lit stage seemed to dim for a heartbeat, plunged into an unexpected, pregnant silence. Then the screen flickered back to life, but the image it displayed was not Serena's carefully curated portfolio. Instead, a series of sketches filled the massive display. These weren't the polished, final renderings that Serena typically showcased. These were raw, visceral, full of the energy and passion of the initial creative spark. They were my designs. My Art Deco gown, my flowing sapphire dress, the emerald silk creation Serena was wearing at that very moment, all rendered in my distinctive style, my unmistakable hand. Each sketch was clearly dated, predating Serena's supposed creations by months, even years. And in the corner of each drawing, my initials, CC. A hush fell over the studio. The only sound was the faint hum of the equipment and the ragged breathing of Serena, who sat frozen in her chair, her face a mask of dawning horror. Then, my voice, calm and steady, filled the room. It wasn't a live feed, it was a pre-recorded narration, carefully crafted to deliver maximum impact. "My name is Celeste Caldwell," my voice began, "and for years I've lived in the shadows, watching my sister Serena take credit for my work. Tonight, that ends." The screen shifted, displaying a scanned page from my journal. The entry was dated 5 years prior, the day after Serena accidentally ruined my design for the regional competition. My handwriting, tight and controlled, described the incident in detail, ending with the chilling line, "I'm starting to wonder if these accidents are accidents at all." "This," my voice continued, "is the first entry in a long record of theft and deception. A record I meticulously kept, documenting every stolen design, every lie, every broken promise." The images continued to flash across the screen, a relentless barrage of evidence. Early drafts of designs showing my creative process, the evolution of an idea from initial concept to final execution. Emails and messages between me and our parents, their words stark and incriminating on the screen. "Celeste, darling, you understand, don't you? Serena needs this. She has the the look. You're so much better behind the scenes. Mom, don't be difficult, Celeste. This is for the good of the family. We'll make it up to you, I promise. Dad. The rejection letter from Maison Deveraux appeared, a stark, cruel document juxtaposed with Serena's glowing acceptance letter. The contrast was brutal, undeniable. Then came the audio recordings. I'd started secretly recording conversations with Serena and our parents years ago, after the Maison Deveraux betrayal. I'd captured them in their own words, plotting, scheming, manipulating. Serena's voice high and panicked. What if she tells someone? What if she exposes me? Dad's voice low and reassuring. We'll handle it, sweetheart. We'll make sure she stays quiet. She's family. She wouldn't betray us. Mom's voice cold and calculating. We need to manage Celeste. She's becoming problematic. We need to make sure she understands her place. The audience was in an uproar. Gasps of disbelief, murmurs of outrage, and angry shouts filled the studio. Some people started to boo Serena, their carefully constructed image of the fashion darling shattering before their eyes. Serena herself was a statue of pure terror. Her face had drained of all color, her eyes wide and unfocused. She tried to speak, to interrupt, to deny the undeniable, but her voice was a choked whisper, lost in the cacophony of sound. This is a lie. It's all lies. She's making it up. The host, a seasoned professional who had interviewed presidents and celebrities, was utterly speechless. He stood there frozen, his mouth agape, his carefully rehearsed composure completely shattered. He fumbled for his earpiece, desperately trying to get instructions from the control room, but it was clear that the broadcast was no longer under his control. It was my show now. I watched from the wings, a strange sense of detachment washing over me. It was as if I were watching a play, a carefully constructed drama that I had written and directed. The years of pain, of resentment, of suppressed rage seemed to drain away, replaced by a cold, hard satisfaction. My gaze shifted to our parents, who were sitting in the front row, their faces contorted with a mixture of shock, shame, and horror. They looked old suddenly, their carefully maintained facade of respectability crumbling around them. They didn't look at me, they couldn't. They were trapped, exposed, their complicity laid bare for the world to see. Within hours, Serena's meticulously crafted world imploded. Contracts were ripped up, sponsorships vanished, and endorsements evaporated like morning mist. Her social media accounts, once overflowing with adoring fans and fawning comments, became a cesspool of vitriol and condemnation. Serena fraud, hashtag stolen designs, and the real talent trended worldwide. Calls for boycotts of any brand associated with her echoed across the internet. The legal repercussions were swift and severe. Maison Deveraux, furious at the deception and the damage to their reputation, immediately launched a lawsuit, seeking millions in damages for breach of contract and fraud. Other brands that Serena had represented followed suit, eager to distance themselves from the scandal. Financial ruin followed close behind. Her income streams dried up overnight. Her lavish apartment, her designer clothes, her expensive cars, all were potentially at risk of seizure. The life of luxury she'd built on lies was crumbling around her. Perhaps the most devastating blow was the social ostracism. The fashion industry, a world built on image and reputation, turned its back on her completely. Designers, models, stylists, even her former friends, all shunned her, eager to avoid being tainted by association. She became a pariah, a cautionary tale, a symbol of everything that was wrong with the industry. Serena, in a desperate attempt to salvage her reputation, tried to fight back. She released a series of public statements claiming she was the victim of a vicious smear campaign orchestrated by her jealous sister. She gave tearful interviews, painting herself as the innocent party, betrayed by her own family. But it was all in vain. The evidence was overwhelming, her lies exposed for all to see. Every attempt to defend herself only dug her hole deeper. The consequences for our parents were equally catastrophic. Their role in the deception, so clearly revealed in the leaked emails and recordings, made them accomplices in Serena's fraud. They were bombarded with hate mail, death threats, and public condemnation. Their social circle, once filled with wealthy and influential friends, evaporated overnight. They became outcasts, pariahs in their own community. The possibility of legal action loomed large. While they hadn't directly profited from Serena's stolen designs, their active participation in covering up the truth and pressuring me into silence could potentially lead to criminal charges. Their carefully constructed life, built on social climbing and a desperate need for validation, crumbled into dust. Their reputation, their social standing, their financial security, all gone. But the most profound damage was the irreparable destruction of their relationship with both of their daughters. Serena, in her rage and desperation, blamed them for pushing her, for creating the monster she had become, and I couldn't even look at them. The betrayal was too deep, the wound too fresh. I often wondered, in the days and weeks that followed, what had driven them. Why had they favored Serena so blatantly? Was it her charm, her charisma, her ability to manipulate them? Was it a misguided belief in her star power, a vicarious thrill in her stolen success? Or was it something deeper, a fundamental flaw in their character, a preference for the superficial over the genuine, the image over the substance? I never got a satisfactory answer. Perhaps there wasn't one. The immediate aftermath for me was a strange mixture of elation, exhaustion, and a profound sense of unreality. It felt like I had been holding my breath for years and I could suddenly breathe it all out. It's over, I thought, as I sat alone in my small apartment, the echoes of the broadcast still ringing in my ears. It's finally over. I watched the news reports, the social media frenzy, the unraveling of Serena's empire with a detached curiosity. It was as if I were watching a movie, a fictional drama that had nothing to do with me. The years of pent-up anger, the burning resentment, the constant ache of injustice, it all seemed to have dissipated, leaving behind a strange emptiness. I felt numb. Not unhappy, not exactly happy either, just numb. I knew there would be a whirlwind to come, interviews, offers, opportunities. I knew my life was about to change irrevocably, but in that first moment, all I wanted was silence. I wanted to be alone with my thoughts, to process the enormity of what had happened, to begin to piece together the shattered fragments of my life. I looked in the mirror at the face that, for so long I saw weakness, I now found a strength I never knew existed. I was tired, bone tired. But beneath the exhaustion, there was a flicker of something else, a spark of hope, a glimmer of a future I had almost given up on, a future where I could finally be me. The stolen designs, the lies, it was all out there. And I knew one thing, the future could only go one way.